Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. We showed you the smallest hour gas boiler. Now let's show you the best. Presenting the jBoiler. Our now obsolete I&E boilers were only rated to process 2 kilograms per second of crude oil, but thanks to optimizations learned from the nano boiler, we are able to shrink the boiler but still increase its output and efficiency. The jBoiler is the climax of two-pipe design, now processing up to 3 kilograms per second of crude oil. Featuring an incredibly easy startup, hot standby, variability, and expandable cooling for the low price of $1,200 thermium and as little as 200 kilograms of supercoolant. Power your base with a Tuxie Industries jBoiler today. Alright, I didn't really cover this in the time lapse because I forgot to put gas in here, but this is just an easy setup too. We've got a bead of naphtha there so that this is separates these two rooms, and this gas pump would vacuum this out, and then you can just get rid of the vacuum pump and seal this off. Just a quick and easy way to vacuum this out. You definitely want this to start out vacuum. You can probably get away without being vacuum if you don't have oxygen in there, but if you have oxygen in there, it's got to go. Okay, so here is a personalized tour of the fluids and settings. You can put any liquid up here. I just put one bottle. It doesn't really matter what it is because it's going to be 20 degrees. I like to have a ton of water across here. You can see it's about 200 kilos per tile, and then 100 kilos a tile of crude oil here. In here, I like to fill this with water usually. And the lead is optional. Make sure you put the lead in as debris, because if you leave in temperature shift plates, the lead just gets deleted when it melts. I tried it, so just put in chunks of lead. 5 tons of water is just fine. The lead is just optional. It looks cool, and you don't even need that much of it to get that effect. So it melts at 326 degrees. And then up here, down here, I'm using brine, but any liquid will do. Brine can actually stack up to 1,200 kilos a tile, so it's actually the best liquid for this in terms of thermal mass. And but water will work fine here too. Down here, you can use almost any liquid you want. The only ones that don't work are like ethanol, because ethanol would vaporize, and polluted water because it off gases, and we need this door to stay vacuum when it's open. But almost anything, any other types of water will work. You could use crude, petroleum, molten phosphorus. The possibilities are endless. You could even use ethanol down here, but you need a temperature sensor to make sure that it doesn't go above about 77 degrees when it vaporizes. Okay, the settings. So for this one, before you start, just set this to 0. Make sure this is outside so your duplicant can access it, because every time you crank on this valve, a duplicant has to show up. Make sure that these ones, make sure you got these set to 1,000 grams per second. Otherwise, they'll crack the pipes before you seal this off. Otherwise, dupes can't get in here to change that. The rest of the stuff, we don't care. This one, I set to above 20. This one controls the temperature here, and you can even, this doesn't run very often, so you could steal cooling from this to run mealwood or whatever crops you wish. This one I set to 10 and 100 just so that your auto sweeper only sweeps just under once a day. Otherwise, it'll constantly be picking up sulfur. This is just set, you could set this to anything. I just got it set to sulfur because that's all it's going to be in here. If you didn't vacuum this out and you had chlorine or carbon dioxide or whatever, it's going to freeze solid, and then you could sweep it out using this. Everything in here I made out of steel, so just freeze, but you probably could get away with cheaper stuff. This, as long as it's below 100 kilos, this is just a fail-safe. If this is too cold and the petroleum comes in and 100 kilos of it collects here, this will cut off the flow to this valve. I didn't have the AND gate in the build before, I'll explain that later. Here, this is actually, I used to have it set to above 500 kilos for my other sour gas boilers. This one, 50. This is going to be awesome because it makes the startup so much easier. Make sure this temperature shift plate, I'm using aluminum here. Before I use diamond in the I&E boilers. Make this out of the best material you have. If you have aluminum, use aluminum. If you don't have aluminum, make some more thermium and use thermium. If you want to cheap out, maybe cobalt. It just works better, the best one you can make out of it. Also, the piping down here is all out of aluminum. You could probably get away with gold or copper, and all of the rest of the piping is just copper. And I screwed that up and didn't fill that loop. Okay, this one also ties into the aqua tuner. I just have it disconnected for now. Well, let's start it up. Why not? Actually, there's no power, so whatever. This one is set to above minus 175. So what this means, if the slab ever gets below minus 175, this thing's gonna run, it doesn't care. It'll make sure that that slab is 175, and it's willing to, this is set to 555. If this chamber is below 555, this aqua tuner also has to run. If the slab is below above minus 175 degrees Celsius, and this is actually above 555, it'll allow this room to overheat a little bit. It doesn't matter. It'll allow this room to overheat a bit to keep the slab cool, because keeping the slab above minus 175 is more important than keeping this chamber below 600 degrees. It doesn't matter. And this one is set to, well, currently I have it set to minus 25 because I'll show you on startup, but usually this one is set to minus 183 after startup. Every time the slab gets below minus 183, it'll shut this door and suck in some heat, and this is going to be 85 degrees all the time, and it'll siphon some heat to make sure that this slab never goes below minus 183. Otherwise, we end up with solid methane, and you're screwed if you've got solid methane in here. You pretty much have to break in and mine it out and do some heavy maintenance if you do that. Is there any other automation that I'm missing? No, I believe that's everything. All right, when you do start this up, you are going to need a little bit of startup power, so you can't just show up on an asteroid without some coal or some glass or some solar panels or something to get this built. For this example, I'm just using 2 coal power arrays. Just set up like this. You'll need something else for the tepidizer, but that can come later. So here's that. And then at this point, if you use the blueprint or anything like that, this is when I connect all of this stuff so that now they don't, if you do connect power before you're ready for these to run, they're not going to run. So now these things are going to pound, and this has to reach 555 degrees, and this has to reach minus 180. This is going to take a while. We're up to temperature now, so now I'm going to tell Abe to show up and set this to 500 grams per second. This is what I like to call the fill point. There's Abe, bang. And we have flow. Yes. Give me that sweet, sweet crude. All right, in comes the crude, and you can see it comes in here, and this is the secret. If you're watching right now, I'm only going to tell you this is the exclusive for the people watching the video. If you want to gain 3% efficiency on the thermal aqua tuner, make this elbow right here out of aluminum. It's not in the blueprint. It's not in the save. Thanks for watching. Back to the show. The crude is coming in, and it comes in here and it hits this tile and immediately becomes sour gas. And then the sour gas flows this way and it freezes when it hits the slab. Now we're just waiting for this will flash a little bit and create a little bit of natural gas on startup. That's normal. And the vent will just eat it. So there's a little bit of natural gas lost on startup, but not a big deal. So now we just got to wait for these tiles here to get down to temperature. At this point, hopefully you got a little bit of a power array built or whatever. You might want to have, you know, your entire thing built, or you can scale your power brick as you need. So I only have 5 here. I'm going to show you, like, this is a practical application for this. Let's say you just got onto your new asteroid or whatever, and you want to have a sour gas boiler to power what could be a great second base. You can just start off with as many as you need. I'd recommend starting with 5 though, because this is kind of the basis to base load this and take your coal out of the equation. Like, I'd recommend keeping your coal around, set these low. I got these set to 20 to 40, but as soon as these get a bit of gas sent to them, they'll max out the batteries and this will never run. Another thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to put in a temperature and do this. Actually, I could have set it to the gas pump. That would have been a better idea, but I want these to run only if it's above 2,000 grams of pressure in here, so the polluted water that comes out of these won't off gas, and we'll have just natural gas in here. All right, back down here, we're still waiting for this to fill. Once this gets to, this is minus 160, this is minus 180, and this one's minus 160. Those are the 3 tiles. I use some ceramic in here, just the pipes around here, the pipes here, and these bricks. The rest of this is all igneous and granite. So now this is getting close to 50, and then the pump will start cycling. So because I have 5 natural gas generators, I made a chart. So let's see, 5, I'm going to set the oil input to 675 for 5 generators because I'm not using an oil well here. This chart will also be referenced at the end of the video. So 675, once this is done, well, we can actually, I'm going to crank it up just because I want the gas pressure to get higher in here. But now this is already good to go. Once you're at 50 kilos or whatever in here, you can set this to whatever you want to set it to. You could set this, you could have your 22 natural gas generators built, And if you can feed in 3 kilos a second of crude, this thing will run 22. I don't recommend that you set this to actually to 3 kilos per second, because what happens is this liquid pool can run away, because this can never pull more than 2 kilos per second. A third of it gets turned into sulfur. So that's why this works. 3 kilos of crude in gets 2 kilos of sour gas out. But if you set this to 3, this will never be able to completely keep up, and your liquid pool will run away. So don't ever actually set it right to 3000. Again, on the chart, if you're running 22, I'd recommend sending it to 2970 if you're not using the natural gas from the oil well. And if you're taking the oil well, and if the oil well is just feeding this, it's going to produce 30 grams a second equivalent of natural gas. So you can set this to 25 grams per second and exactly feed 22 natural gas generators all the time. And it's beautiful. All right, so yeah, now that this is up and going, once this reaches above 2 kilos, these will start running and take over. Now this is a very simple, quick, and I whipped this together really quick just for a quick demonstration. But as you can see, these are going to, well, if we maybe had a little bit of power to the pump, we'd be a bit more golden. All right, now this thing's going to start pumping, but these aren't going to fire until it's over 2000. I'm just going to turn this up to 3000 so you can see it actually working on startup. And this will give us a quicker fill. I added in a little bit of extra instrumentation or automation over here just because I've got this on anyway, but you can set this so that if you're this could infinitely store if you want to, but if you don't want to use that sort of, some would call it an exploit. Liquid storage is definitely an exploit in my books, but gas is compressible. You know, it can be a little bit muddled there, but you know, going crazy, what? My graphic card melting out? So you could set this to below 20 kilos, right? And then if this gets up to 20 kilos of pressure, you could have this Atmos sensor disable the pump down, the liquid shutoff down here. So then this will only run when you need it. Like you can run this as an on-demand system, or you can set this thing to run at 2970 24/7 and not have a worry about it, as long as you can eat the capacity. But you can set this up as a massive battery. You could there's so many options. That's why this is so variable. This will work at anything between 0 and 3 kilos per second. So you can tune this to run. I've given you the chart so you can choose exactly how many. If you only need 5 natural gas generators, hey, set this to 675 like I'm about to right now, and boom, you don't have to worry about it. This thing will take 675 grams a second all the time, and these will run all the time. Now you might not even need these to run all the time. Like this one over here, I've just got it connected to the tepidizer, you know, and the actual transit tube access, and it's actually wired to the wall, which is cheating. But you can see that this tepidizer virtually never runs. I think it's like maybe 10%, less than 10% on average. So, you know, it doesn't need that power. You could put these on batteries. You can do lots of crazy stuff. So I love sour gas boilers, and this one's the best. This one can't quite eat an entire oil well worth, you know, at 3.33 kilos per second, but this is the pinnacle of 2-pipe design. You cannot pump any more through this system than 3 kilos a second. These pipes will be running 100% of the time if it's pumping 3 kilos a second. Here's an example. This one actually has the space saver option on the bottom. You can put in supercoolant on the bottom and get rid of one tile of height by deleting the door, but you know, why not save the supercoolant? But here's an example of them running at 3 kilos per second, and it just runs non-stop. It's awesome. Into the efficiency of it, this runs at 79%. This thing almost makes it to iBoiler efficiency. The iBoiler, when I first developed it, ran at 71% on the AquaTuner, but that's only processing 2/3 of what this is processing. This is up to 3 kilos, and it's just barely at 79%. And if you caught the trick earlier, this will be down to 77% with that little trick. So it gets this is awesome. So, and down here, here are 2 jBoilers. These are just completely, this one's the L and this one's the R if you're looking for the blueprints. This up here is just an optional heat exchanger so that the crude oil coming in gains a bit of temperature off of the methane coming out, but this isn't really required because I found that with this system, usually the methane is coming out at 130, 135, and you know, that's not a problem on the other end, but you can steal a little bit of temperature and get it down to 110. This only has 3 stages. You can go 4 or 5 and get it maybe down to below 100. But what this allows is this AquaTuner runs less often than this AquaTuner, so you can save a little bit of power that way. But you know, you don't need it, and that's why I deleted it off of the iBoiler. You know, that was just an impractical design. Not to mention the iBoilers, this pipe sensor is nice and close, so you'll never have any problems with this. All of the problems with the I and E boilers have been solved, and this thing's smaller, more efficient, more utilitarian. Like the iBoiler and the E-boilers had 5 temperature shift plates. That just made it worse. This one down here you need, the rest of them are gone. These conveyor rails, they act as temperature shift plates. These are required. I make them out of steel. It's the only thing you can make them out of that's worthwhile. I just connected them with iron ore rails behind just to make them look good. They don't bother you and they do their job. There you have it. Thanks again for your patronage to Tuxie Industries, and please be sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with our products. We hope you get many cycles of faithful service from your jBoiler. Complaints and refund requests can be sent to 50,000 Shatter Planet Way. Thanks for watching, and I hope you were informed, entertained, or both. Catch you next time.